Her Excellency, thank you very much for your invitation, and we hope to make a great interview for our viewers. To respond for few questions about Armenian Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Good evening, in first time.
Good evening. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you for this program.
Your Excellency, we want to know about a few things about Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and history of this conflict.
Yes, you know that Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, the issue that is one of the most important and most dangerous issues now in the region of South Caucasus. Of course, it has very deep historical roots, and the fact that Nagorno-Karabakh was one of the subjects discussed even during the First World War on League Nation, and also it was a subject of discussion in relations between First Republic of Armenia and Azerbaijan. And Nagorno-Karabakh, that time, it was de facto independent. And only at the beginning of 1920s, after the Sovietization of both Armenia and Azerbaijan, under the decision of Communist Party and by the direct involvement of Joseph Stalin, Nagorno-Karabakh became the part of the former Soviet Azerbaijan. Of course, if we go to the deep some historical facts, it's obvious that not only Nagorno-Karabakh, but also a lot of territories surrounding that, they were part of historical Armenia, one of the most important medieval states in this region, and even before that, from the ancient times. We have a lot of actually notes from famous historians, geographers, even Romanian or Greek. However, the current history of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, it's started by the end of the former Soviet Union. In 1988, Armenians of this region, they asked, they request both Soviet authorities in Armenia and in Soviet Azerbaijan, and also in Moscow, the Central Communist Party leadership, to yes, because of this, I would say, discrimination policy during the old Soviet period, to be united with Soviet Armenia. The current stage of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, it started from the end of Soviet Union, from the and from the from the end of 1980s, and the peaceful request from the population of Nagorno-Karabakh for central authorities to be reunited.
Excuse me for interrupting you, Your Excellency, but now Nagorno-Karabakh is a self-governing area, yes? They are ethnic Armenians who rule Nagorno-Karabakh, yes?
According to the time constitutional laws, Nagorno-Karabakh is declared its independent republic in September 1991, and these steps were finalized by the referendum at the end of the same year. And the current Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh, it's also a result of liberation and war in the first part of 90s, and the ceasefire regime was established in 1994 and also supported by the additional agreement in 1995. And which is important, it was a trilateral agreement
Yes.
between Commander of Defense Army of Nagorno-Karabakh and Ministers of Defense of Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Yes, I know that. But who mediate this conflict? Who is the right authority to mediate this conflict, internationally speaking? I guess it's about the OSCE Minsk group, you know?
Yes, you are right. The only legitimate negotiation format that was in charge of this negotiation from the and even from the 1990s was so-called co-chairmanship of OSCE Minsk group. Three superpowers, Russia, France, and United States, they were at the very beginning on this negotiation process, and still we see that the current escalation, the full-scale war that was initiated by Azerbaijan on 27th of September of this year, we see also that the same actors were very active in this efforts to re-establish ceasefire regime in the zone of conflict.
I know that in the recent days, more exactly on 9th of October, if I don't mistake, the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sergey Lavrov, established a meeting between Armenian defense minister and Azerbaijan defense minister on Moscow.
Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Yes.
Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Excuse
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
And they agreed to cease of hostile action there because there were a lot of casualties on the military side, but also on the civilian side, both in Armenia, in Nagorno-Karabakh, and in Azerbaijan also. This fragile ceasefire agreement is every day.
No, unfortunately, this so-called humanitarian ceasefire that was agreed by the support of Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, actually it was violated even before it started.
Yes.
Yes, and on the afternoon of October 10, Azerbaijani side continued its military offenses on all directions in Nagorno-Karabakh. And unfortunately, as you said, all these attacks on the ground with very strong support from air, including manned and unmanned aerial vehicles, very active involvement of heavy artillery and missiles from Azerbaijani side. We see that not only military position of defense army are targeting, but also civil population. And the capital of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, Stepanakert, now it's very heavily damaged. And moreover, we see that Azerbaijani army is fighting also on some villages and settlements on the territory of Republic of Armenia.
Your Eminency, do you have some information about casualties, the number of the deaths, or the number of churches or other buildings which were destroyed?
According to the official information provided by the Armenian side, and I should mention that only Armenian side provide any information about the amount of casualties. Azerbaijani side from the very beginning, they didn't disclose any kind of information about their losses. And according to our information, we have now about 700 people killed from Armenian side, including also about 30 civilians killed as a result of air and artillery strikes from Azerbaijani side. According to the official information from Karabakhian army, the military casualties from Azerbaijani side, about 4,000 or 5,000 soldiers. And Armenian military experts, they published information name by name by about 700 of Azerbaijani soldiers killed during this military aggression.
Okay, Your Excellency, either we like it or not, in this conflict there are some involvement, foreign involvement. On one side, we can say Russia, and on the other side, we can say Turkey. Turkey is Turkey support Azerbaijani side very directly. There is another problem. Turkey is a NATO state member, and Armenia is a collective security treaty organization member, yes? So there are two different military structures, very strong structures. And what about the implication on international side, on international
Actors.
actors?
Thank you for your question. I think it's a very important question, but of course, situation is a bit more complicated than you said. And first of all, I should say that very often some commentators describing situation in the ground, trying to describe it as some kind of a proxy war between Turkey and Russia. But in reality, situation a bit different, because in case of Russia, though it has military obligations toward Armenia, toward Republic of Armenia, and Armenia, as you said, a member of CSTO, but Russia also a member of Minsk Group 3 co-chairs format. And as it was stated by the Russian leadership, and it was reassured again on the highest political level, Russia are trying to be continued to continue to play its role as a co-chair and as a most active mediator in this conflict. Of course, there are some security obligations toward Armenia, and this obligation Russia trying to respect. But in case of Turkey, we have a completely different situation. You already said that this conflict actually is actively, not only actively supported by Turkey, but Turkish leadership was maybe the main initiator of this military escalation.
Because of the military exercises, common military exercises between Azerbaijan and Turkey recently on the territory of Azerbaijan.
It is some of indicators of such kind of involvement, because in reality, Turkish side not only deployed as a result of these military exercises its units, including also Technic F-16 fighters and also different types of drones on Azerbaijani territory, but also Turkish military instructors. They helped Azerbaijani army in this military aggression, and which is the most disturbing fact for us, and also I think for all international community, and also for other NATO member countries, that Turkey, as a, I would say, one of the most important contributors of the and supporters of international terrorism in our region, also deployed hundred of jihadi mercenaries from Syria, from Libya to Azerbaijan. Yes. It seems that unfortunately such kind of hybrid tactics from the Turkish leadership, when they're trying to use this terrorist militia in its geopolitical actually games all over the perimeter of Turkey. Now it's become reality also in the South Caucasus, and it's really very disturbing for international community, and especially for you, because we see the situation when one of the members of Council of Europe, one of members of Eastern Partnership, EU Eastern Partnership program, Azerbaijan, agreed and deployed international jihadists by the support of Turkey and tried to use them against the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, and also it seems that sooner or later it will be directly used not only against the Armenia but also other countries and other regions around the South Caucasus.
Your Excellency, can we speak about the economic interest of Turkey in this conflict? Because we know that Turkey holds the pipeline from oil products and gas products from Azerbaijan, yes? So it's a little bit or more economic interest in involving in this conflict.
I think it's a combination of both economic, geopolitical interest, which also combined with so-called neo-Ottomanic and neo-imperic dreams and illusions that it seems the current Turkish leadership has now. So this combination of historical illusions and dreams with their geopolitical ambitions
to rebuild the Ottoman Empire in
yes.
a modern form.
It's not also surprisingly for us that Erdogan recently again directly said that they are coming back to the South Caucasus to continue the job that their grandfathers didn't complete. And this is, I think, a direct threat to continuation of Armenian genocide by the Ottoman Empire during the First World War in 1915.
I want to, Your Excellency, if I may, I want to ask you direct questions about the neutrality position of Russia in this conflict, because economically speaking, Russia has some economic interest in Azerbaijan. Is the first supplier of military technique and armament in Azerbaijan, and also is interested in some natural resources there. So how the Armenian authorities see the neutrality of Russia until now, because Russia actually is an ally of Armenia.
First of all, you know, it's true that Russia was one of the biggest suppliers of arms and weapons to Azerbaijan, but from technological point of view, most important arm transfers to Azerbaijan that we see were very important and played a very dangerous role in the current fightings came from Israel and Turkey.
Yes.
However, coming back to your direct question, of course, this is a sphere and this is an issue that constantly discussed between Armenian and Russian leadership. We understand position of Russia as a mediator of OSCE Minsk group. Which of course for us also is a very important factor, but also Armenian side always invite to the fact of, as you said, these military obligations that Russia has toward Armenia and Armenian membership on CSTO organization.
Okay, thank you. Another aspect, I want to ask you, what was the spark that reinitiate this conflict? Because we saw the international community saw this violence after the 22nd of September, but I think that the moment was not then. What was the spark then?
I think it was a combination of some factors. starting from a very tough domestic political and economic situation both in Azerbaijan and in Turkey. We see that this COVID, the spreading of COVID, it's actually accelerate a lot of domestic problems in almost all countries, but including also Turkey and Azerbaijan, and military mobilization. It's always played important role as a political tool both for Erdogan and for Aliyev. The another important factor, I think, that for Turkey as one of the main initiators, or maybe the main one initiator of this military escalation, it seems that Turkey considers South Caucasus as a part of a more wider geopolitical game from Libya to Nagorno-Karabakh, and as a part of its strategic calculus in relation with other regional and global powers, from Russia till European countries.
So, Your Excellency, you say that Russia is trying to get a more important role in the regional area, like a very big actor on the regional.
You mean Turkey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, you know, Turkey is involved in many conflicts in the region. Most of them, from my point of view, Turkey hasn't tried to be involved in this conflict. So maybe Erdogan, like the leader of the Turkey, is some kind involved by his cult of personality, because he is trying actually to recreate the Ottoman Empire. You know.
Yes, we already discussed this issue, and I see that this factor becomes more and more dominant in all assessments that comes especially from the European countries towards the policy of Turkish leadership in all perimeter along its borders. Yes. Because we see the same strategy, the same tactics, the same combination of hybrid and direct military threats that comes from Turkish side toward almost all its neighbors.
Many refugees has Nagorno-Karabakh, because I hear that a lot, thousands and thousands of citizens from Nagorno-Karabakh refugees to Armenia.
I think now we can say about a dozen of thousands of refugees, because under the direct bombardment from Azerbaijani side, using all weaponry that they have in their arsenal, from drones and artillery till very precise missiles systems. Of course, it's understandable that in this situation, Stepanakert and almost all other big cities of Nagorno-Karabakh, they were evacuated, especially women and children. They were evacuated to Armenia, and yes, and men, all they are staying on the ground. They are fighting against the Turkish and Azerbaijani aggression.
Another big step in Armenia path for democracy was the peaceful revolution in 2018.
Yes.
Yes, which was an example for states that we are neighboring with. It wasn't followed by these states. Especially, you talk about Azerbaijan, about the dynasty that rules this country for almost 60 years. But you are also a neighbor with Georgia. Georgia is another important actor in the region. But in Georgia, there are other problems, about Abkhazia and South Ossetia, yes, but they still managed to go to the path of democracy. Armenia is the best example in the region for the path that they choose. I want to ask you about Armenia's aspiration to EU values and to maybe a partnership with NATO.
You know that Armenia is one of the most active participant of EU Eastern Partnership Program, and we are in very deep contact with Brussels in the framework of different programs and initiatives. However, it's very important to say that actually Armenia doing these programs and participating in them not only because of some geopolitical reasons, but because implementation of this European experience, European system of values, European practice in domestic economic political life of Armenia, from rule of law till the free election, something that needs for us by default. And we very appreciate the support, any kind of support that we receive from our partners from EU as an institution and EU members. About NATO, we are also part of many peacekeeping operations. Armenian soldiers, they participated in many peacekeeping operations. And by the way, I know that in Afghanistan, Armenian peacekeepers, they served together with some Romanian soldiers, and I know that even some Armenian officers, they participate in trainings organized by the Romanian Ministry of Defense. So this is a very vivid example of how a country in a very complicated geopolitical and geographical framework can manage some kind of a balanced cooperation even in military and security sphere, not only with Russia, with other countries in our region, but also with our partners in NATO. Unfortunately, there are the one very important obstacle inside of NATO that complicates this process, the fact that Turkey is a NATO member country. The fact is that is a real problem not only for Armenia in our relation with NATO, but also for almost all NATO member countries. We see that such kind of policy of Turkey is disturbing.
For example, in Greece.
Greece, yes,
in
yes.
Eastern Mediterranean.
And this is a situation that of course creates some kind of new challenges also for this organization as well.
Yes.
Your Excellency, we have to change the questions, and after the politics, and we'll go to the history of Armenia. Armenia is one of the oldest countries in Europe. Also, Armenia has had a lot of problems with its neighbors in history, and in fact, in the beginning of 20th century, the Turkish Holocaust from Armenia was killed over 1 million inhabitants. After 2 decades, we also know that Hebrew Holocaust by Nazi. Why the Armenian Holocaust is unknown by most part of the people, Europeans?
You know, unfortunately, it seems that geopolitical priorities or interest. Sometimes they're covering some moral and humanity values. And unfortunately, sometimes some countries they don't pay enough attention to these crimes against humanity. And as you said, the fact that the Armenian genocide in 1915 and after that
until 1923.
Yes, Armenian pogroms in Turkey, they led at least till 1923, but after that, until now, the Armenian community, a small but historical Armenian community in Turkey still is under danger, and we see that even now Erdogan actually threatened its Armenian population. They demonstrate that such kind of genocide might be continued. And as you said, the Holocaust during the Second World War, the other genocide and ethnic cleanings in many other places and regions of the world demonstrate that. However, I am confident that the process of international recognition of Armenian genocide should be continued. A very important step was done last year by the United States when both chambers of US Congress approved a resolution, and I hope that sooner or later Romania also will make its step towards the international, towards the continuation of international recognition of the Armenian genocide.
I saw in our city in Pitești that is a monument of Armenian Holocaust in the center of the city, and year by year Armenian community of Argeș County and
Yes.
also Pitești make some sessions, some meetings to commemorate the Holocaust.
Yes, on April 24.
And the church.
Yes, every year on April 24, not only in your native city, which one of the traditional centers of Romanian community, not only in Romania,
Yes,
but all over the world on April 24, Armenians in Armenia, in Artsakh, in diaspora, they're commemorating the memory of victims of genocide.
Yes, half of population of Armenia from beginning 20th century was killed in
or deported. This is also a crime which actually has some kind of a continuation now, and the direct threats that comes from the Turkish leadership demonstrate that it seems that some political circles in Turkey, they still think in the same system of coordinate that the grandparents made in the beginning of 20th century.
Your Excellency, we have no more time, just a few minutes, 5 or 6 minutes, and I want from you to speak some words to Armenian community from Pitești, from Romania, and some words for the hope of regulations of this conflict.
First of all, I should say that Armenian community in Romania is one of the oldest traditional Armenian communities in Europe, and one of the most visible diaspora communities in Europe. We have a community that played also important role in the development of your country. Armenians had a great impact in economic, cultural, political, military, educational development of your country, and still Armenian community is very visible here. Armenian community also played important role in our bilateral relations, playing as a role as a bridge between our two nations and our two states. And that's why it's not surprisingly that Romania is the first country that established diplomatic relation with Republic of Armenia after we restored our independence in after the collapse of Soviet Union, and diplomatic relations between our two countries were established on December 1991. So that's why all these factors they are very important for us. And we also value the continuation of cooperation not only between our central governments or diplomatic, but also on the level of local authorities, the level of counties and cities and towns that traditionally had Armenian communities. The fact that we have maybe more than a dozen of towns and cities in Romania that have Strada Armeniasca, including also Armenian Street, including also capital of Bucharest, that demonstrates that historical roots of Armenian presence here in Romania, they are very, very, very deep.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and we hope that the conflict of Nagorno-Karabakh will end soon.
You know, a lot depends on the coordinated position of international community, and for Armenian side, it's obviously that this prolonged conflict might be ended only when Azerbaijan and international community recognize the right of people of Nagorno-Karabakh for their independence, recognize their right to choose their own way how they children or they can live in this land, and to decide by elections, decide by their own votes, their own destiny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dragi telespectatori, aceasta a fost emisiunea de seară asta. Îi mulțumim Excelenței sale Sergey MINASYAN, ambasadorul Republicii Armene în România, pentru invitație și pentru timpul acordat. Sperăm ca acest război care afectează această zonă din Europa să se sfârșească cât mai curând, deoarece mor zeci de oameni în fiecare zi. Nu mai vorbim de pagube materiale. Să aveți o seară bună, ne vedem mâine seară.